Let me just say the list again. They need to be a good listener, a problem solver, empathetic, genuine, knowledgeable, helpful, and responsible. Kick it.
Welcome to Strata Stories. My name is Thomas Schreiber. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Strata PT. Strata PT is a single EMR platform and revenue cycle management service for physical, occupational, and speech therapy practices that helps you achieve a 99.99% reimbursement rate. On today's episode, Paul Singh, the CEO of Strata PT, talks with Jerry Durham, a PT and the CEO of the Client Experience Company. Jerry helps practices craft incredible patient experiences that help grow your revenue. Jerry and Paul talk through the challenges of hiring and onboarding a front desk team, the crucial aspects of the first phone call to a referral, what the essential skills are for a front desk person to have, and lastly, how much revenue can increase with a great front desk experience. If you'd like to learn more about Strata PT and see how our EMR and RCM works, head over to stratapt.com to book a demo. Now, without further delay, here's today's episode.
If I was walking down the street with a practice owner and there was $100 on the floor, you better believe they would stop in an instant to pick it up. Like, nobody would ever be like, no, man, I'm too busy to pick up $100 off the ground. But then when you start to think about the fact that every time that front desk phone rings, that's $100. It could be $100 and it's yours to lose. Like, it's kind of crazy.
Well, remember here, we're going to jump on this right now. And I'm doing the webinar on Thursday. And I'm just I'm reloading the same thing because I got such good feedback. It's $1,000 phone call is what it is, Paul. It's not $100 on the floor.
You're right.
So,
You're right. Yeah.
So just for context, and I just want to put this out. And it took me a while. The day this hit me, so much of this came when I was doing the calls. I don't remember the moment in time, but I definitely remember it occurring is that when I was giving people the cost to do physical therapy with us, when I did the cost call back, I realized if they had a referral sitting in front of them that said 10 visits, they were immediately doing the math.
Yeah.
And I went, wait a minute, if they're doing the math, why aren't we doing the math?
Yeah.
And so I doubled back to this term, and I'm taking this. I pulled it from someone else and reworded it, but it's still mine. All visits are valuable, yet not all visits have the same value. Right. The first visit is by far the most valuable because, right, it's where you have an opportunity to deliver. And It's where you have an opportunity to continue a conversation. And then it's an opportunity to move into that second sales cycle, which is selling a plan of care. Yeah. So if I manage the upstream process properly, this thing is just it's T-ball. So It's not $100 visit. It's $1,000 call. It's $1,000 call is what it is.
Well, it's even more money on the line. And, we'll put links to your content in the show notes here. But for example, one of your secret caller takeaways was that everybody sounds the same. And I think this is such a subtle but very important point. It's like, it's subtle because everybody experiences it. It's important because very few people actually understand that it's better to be different. Like, I'm making this up as an example, but like, if you've ever been to like a Michelin star restaurant, there's no flimsy door handles, and so every part of the experience matters, Anyway, I just thought this was interesting. You said like this, you sound like everybody else, and that's what you don't want to do. Like, so I thought that was a really interesting one. The other one that caught my eye that you posted a couple of days ago was you did a secret caller, and you did this like kind of me and you, like, it's like a script. And again, I'll put this in the show notes. But you said, "Hey, my name's Jerry. I have LBP. I want to get scheduled." Like the person on the other end said, "Do you have a referral?" You said, "Yeah." They said, "Do you have your insurance card?" You said, "Not on me." They said, "Okay, you call me back later whenever you have all that." And that hits even harder when you think about the context. That was $1,000 call right there. Like, it's like,
and then people, man. That was the call. That was the call more than any. People were like, "Is this was real?" I said, "Read the top of the post." I said, "This is a real call." They read that and read through and still refuse to believe. I'm like, I didn't edit this. I copied and pasted it. I took out some ums, but man, I'm like, you don't realize one of my early posts was, why are you making it so difficult? And I think you'll appreciate this more than anyone, Paul. Why are you making it so difficult for someone that has taken their energy, their time, and potentially their money to do business with you and go, thanks for calling, whatever. I'm like,
right.
Isn't it all about more marketing? Right.
Yep.
And I'm to the point because I've got a couple clients that aren't PTs.
Okay.
And you know where this is going. It's been a very, very refreshing.
Oh, right. Yeah. Other industries are picking up on the. Yeah.
And God bless my PTs, because I was it. And again, I'll own this. I was the same owner, but I've got someone currently, I'm just going to say this out loud. I've got someone currently in my pipeline that I have put the hard, cold numbers in front of them. And the fact that they didn't just go, not how are we going to do this, but didn't say, are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? Is just, it really tipped me over to go, there's no business person on the face of the earth that wouldn't question this further. How do we make this work? Okay. What do we got to do?
Right. Yeah. I mean,
but this new group I'm working with, right? You know what I love about two things happen. And I just want to throw this out there for the business owners. If they have a question, it's a question that builds upon the work to be done. They don't question the validity of marketing and sales working together, which I get all the time, right? And I'm like, this predates all of us. And by the way, the sales research goes back further. I've found sales research all the way back into the 40s. I'm like, you can't find healthcare research on therapeutic alliance and inspection into the 40s. But salespeople were talking about expectations and building trust in the 40s. I'm like, yeah. So it's a breath of fresh air, because they'll own what they don't know. And then they're really humble and, questioning. And I love working with these people because the upside is ginormous for everybody.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. To your point about like other industries now kind of reacting to what you do and coming into your business now, I'm getting some quotes on some work that I need to get done on my house. And, I don't know if this is, okay, your thumbs up and already, so you get it. So you know where I'm going with this. Like, I just need some work done. I filled out the form, the lead form or whatever on these 3 different websites. One guy called before I feel like I hit submit, and he called like 30 seconds later and was like, hey, this was Sunday. So he called like 30 seconds later, and within 2 minutes, he's like, hey man, I'll be at your house tomorrow. Can you do tomorrow? The other 2, one of them hasn't even responded. Now we're a week and a half later, hasn't even responded. The second guy texted me, which is fine. I appreciated that. But then like ghosted me. I finally got a quote this past Sunday after reaching out to him like 6 times. And then like, I'm looking at this with my wife and I'm like, holy cow, like the first guy has now set the standard. Like that's the experience I wanted, and he's 2x more. The price is 2x more than all these other guys. But man, I like the idea that he just responded quick, And I guess where I'm going with this is that, almost every other industry has figured out these little touch points and, how important it is to react and, how fickle the relationship is with a patient. But somehow a lot of PTs, and this isn't also reserved just to PT. I mean, even my primary care provider acts this way and makes these like stupid mistakes. It's healthcare. Yeah. And so I don't know, maybe this is like the dark side of requiring, licensed medical professionals to own these practices.
It is. I went through all this, right?
Yeah.
Because so I went through my own self-evaluation and went, it's true of healthcare. And you and I both know the further along in your education you get, the more it gets niched down. But the bigger the ego and the wider I know everything becomes. I'm like, it is this weird dichotomy.
Yep.
And you give someone a license to practice medicine, and now they're an expert in marketing and sales and revenue cycles and people.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Well, yeah. Well, so real quick, by the way, like I know you're doing these webinars now to kind of talk about what this new patient phone call looks like. And so I think obviously we're going to put a link to your site so that way people can kind of, or these posts so that people can kind of join us with you.
I'm going to keep running it. And I do it live.
But for
and let
somebody,
people come in.
for somebody listening to this right now that doesn't know Jerry, which is insane that they wouldn't know you, but let's just say they don't know you and they don't know what the new patient phone call is. Give me the high level. Like, obviously they need to come to the webinar, right? But give me the high level. Like, you posted this video on LinkedIn about talking about the new patient phone call. But let's just pretend somebody listening to this hasn't heard you or seen that yet on LinkedIn. Give me the Jerry special here. What does it take to master that new patient phone call?
Yeah. All I did, so let's say we're talking to providers who become owners. So healthcare providers that have become owners. All I did literally was in my journey. So, I mean, the first tipping point, we got to say, I went out of network. I've been reflecting on this a lot. And when I went out of network, unlike most clinics, I wasn't going, right, what services are we going to do? What are we going to charge? I literally remember this moment. And reflecting back on it recently, my gut reaction was not, what are we going to add? What are we going to do? How are we going to charge for this? My gut reaction was, we have to start talking to people differently who are entering into our business, because everybody comes at it from, we got to change our practice model. And I'm like, no, you got to run a business. And so my gut reaction was, how are we going to talk to people coming into our ecosystem so they understand why they should value what we have to offer? And if you think about it, Paul, it is completely 180 to what everybody else is thinking. Mm-hmm. And right, why did I think that first? I don't know. I can't own any of that. And so when at that moment, let's fast forward, I hired a couple salespeople early on to take over the front end phone call, and they both failed miserably, yet they were successful somewhere else. So my brain said, this isn't right.
Right.
So I had to go in and do it myself, because I said, I don't know how to hire the right person. I don't know how to train them, and I don't know what to onboard them to. So I told my partner I'd answer our incoming new patient phone calls for 4 clinics and do cost callbacks. For 3 months. And I did it for a year. And I learned more from that. And everything I share today still comes right. I've continued that journey. And then I saw the impact on the business. So I saw the impact on people showing up and staying. But then I saw the metrics. My overall cancel rate went down from changing the incoming phone call. So that journey was just me going, we got to change this. Oh shit, I don't know how to hire people. I don't know how to train. I better do it myself. So I've literally done every single job in my business now. And everybody skipped the front desk part. Right. Everybody says, I did this work. And I'm like, you didn't do the front desk sales part. You did not.
Right. You said this to me before, and I'm not trying to steal your thunder. I just want to I want people to hear it in your own words. You said to me before that, like, by fixing this front end, making sure that people are ready to arrive and pay, like, you've thrown some numbers at me before in terms of like what this means in terms of dollars for some of your clients and stuff. Can give me the overview? Like, and again, I'm not trying to steal your thunder, which is why I'm being kind of cagey here, but like, what does the math look like on, if you get that new patient phone call right, what does the math look like for the average practice?
So there's 2 ways to approach this, I think, and it's really important. And I think most people are approaching it wrong, and I already addressed this, right? They're going, our front desk, our first visit arrival rate's 80%. I'm going to try to use simple numbers. So 80 out of 100 arrive. Well, if we get 10 more people at $100 a visit, that's $1,000 a month. And I'm like, absolutely not. 10 more people at $1,000 a case is $10,000 a month. So I've run those numbers and I've seen them. So I've seen them improve by 5%, 10%, right? I got a clinic I worked with recently who just got acquired, by the way. And by the way, we'll share this on another call. Everything he got from that purchase, he'll attribute back to the work he did that I presented him with. So they brought the systems that doesn't exist in the rest of the company over 50 other businesses.
Yeah.
And so if we look at it that way, but I've increased arrival rates by 10%, right? Or no, it's not 10%. It's going from 80 to 90. That's not 10%, right? That is what I love, is the absolute number, because then I do it by case. So I've had people increase their monthly by $10,000, by $15,000, by $20,000. Then let me throw this in, Paul. There's the downstream impact. I'll never forget one of my earlier clients, still one of my best testimonials. We brought 2 of his front desk people into the training. I trained them for 6 weeks. The owner was on every call. And about 4 weeks in, he's like, Jerry, you're not going to believe these numbers. Our company-wide cancel rate has gone down 50% since we started this. And his name was Paul too. Or no, yeah, Paul. And I just said, Paul, I hear you, but are you sure you're calculating this right? I'm like,
Yep.
I hear you, but something tells me this number's not right. We got on the phone. He took me through the numbers and I'm like, it's absolutely right. So my point here is we trained his front desk team. We didn't touch his providers. We did nothing with the care downstream. We managed and set expectations and built trust earlier. This was an in-network clinic, Paul. And we lowered his cancel rate by 50%. So, right. So if you think about it, that's like going 20 to 10, right? I mean, huge impact. I had another client I did this for. So we changed the front end, but his overall company cancel rate went down at the same time. So we were doing about $10,000 a month just on that per clinic, 5 clinics. So it's $50,000 a month in revenue.
I mean, that's real money. That's real money, you know, and I'm going to bet
and by
those.
The way, right? Yeah.
I'm going to bet those practices are the same ones that are not complaining about, 3% net margins or whatever. They're
no, and
they're not leaving money on the table.
Complaining. Yeah, they stopped complaining about a lot of things. And by the way, a lot of things they were just able to leave them the same. Like, right? And I got to tell you, it's cool. This clinic that just got purchased, I love. He comes back and just thanks me and I'm very grateful for the work. And I kept going, you executed. Yet, right, it was this perfect team approach. And the beauty was it is the single best culture I've ever seen, Paul. The team is so bought in. And when he started doing the work on the front end, the providers felt that weight come off their shoulders, right? They weren't getting yelled at for cancels and no-shows and drop-offs, right?
Right. What, so, you're talking about like, and I'm not trying to like simplify it too much here. Obviously there's a lot of work that goes into this, but there's there's this concept of how you talk to the patient, what that script looks like, making sure that the front desk is bought in and stuff like that. What about like ongoing? Like, what I mean by that is let's just use that same guy you just talked about. He was listening in on the calls, he's doing all this stuff. So he's totally bought in, but at some point he's got to get back to other stuff. He can't be on every call. So do you recommend that, like a certain recording platform or anything like that these guys can then use to listen to the calls later? Is that not an issue? Like how do you think about that? Like after Jerry comes in and does his magic, how do we make sure that the magic stays after you're gone?
Yeah. The accountability
obviously we would
part.
And that's the numbers, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, the accountability is how do we hold people accountable? And usually it's got to be a number. Because, right, this is the big issue. Let me just say this real quick. People don't understand the tasks that deliver the true metrics, right? Because with their front desk, because everybody's got a bunch of tasks. I'm like, and yet they'll call them non-revenue generating, right? You want to see me triggered? Call your front desk non-revenue generating with me in the room.
Yeah.
So my goal is to create, right, around bonuses and incentives. My goal is to create the first $100,000 front desk person. If a provider is asking for $100,000, how do you think those people that got put on the schedule, that arrived, paid, and stayed, that gave you the opportunity?
Wait. That's pretty powerful. Say that again. You want to create a $100,000 front desk person? Talk about that. That seems big.
Yeah. So part of the accountability, right? And we can't do this without accountability. So it fits in. So if I want to create a $100,000 front desk person, that means we got to know the system they're in, right? We got to know, right? Leads. We got to have lead trackers, CRM. And then we got to have a way to track all this. And then we got to have ongoing. So here we go. We'll pile this all up. We have to have ongoing training to go with the accountability, right? So that everything is proactive, not reactive, right? So stop me if you've heard this before. This is any sales department in any business other than healthcare. So so that if we do this and I create and I help you plug all the holes and we've got this system dialed in and we have the back end. So yes, there's got to be recordings. And by the way, the industry standard is 10% of all calls are coached and reviewed. And if you think about this is think about the volume. So if someone's taking 200 calls a month, that means we're reviewing 20 calls. And I now have the software. for the transcripts, the recordings, and the scoring on this so that you can be proactive, Paul. So you're not waiting till the end of the quarter, end of the half year, end of the year to go, oh, our sales are down. No, we're going to see.
This is, I mean, look, this is the first time I've heard you say this. And this is like, I think this is a huge thing, what you're doing. This idea of like, you know, creating enough value at the front desk that an owner can afford to pay $100K.
Yeah, because
that's
huge.
That's
not what they heard. And I love you said that, Paul. All everybody heard was $100,000 expense line. And I'm like,
right.
Let's say this really slow. If your front desk person is going to get paid $100,000, the downstream impact is going to be huge.
I mean, well, look, I think for whatever it's worth, go read the public earnings reports for almost every Fortune 500 company. The sales team is on paper the most expensive team, but it has this flow through effect. I mean, you want the sales team motivated by money and thinking about money and all those things because that's how the deals come through.
You can't say that, Paul.
I know. Of course. Yeah. Because, they think of the patient outcomes. They might not be better, but come on. Like, yeah, I think this is really powerful, man.
But
and
they will
it,
be. Here we go, Paul. I'll say it out loud, but they will be. Your patient this is right. They will be better. This is the thing. And I love getting in front of people. And I got a call with someone tomorrow. I'm not going to mention it, but I saw a tech company recently going, look, the goal is not more visits. It's completed plans of care. And I was like, are you free tomorrow? Can we talk?
This is this is probably too much information, but this is actually, you just triggered a memory for me here real quick. So I just did my annual, checkup or whatever, physical, with my primary care guy. And, so then, he's like, how you doing? Whatever. I'm like, yeah, I feel good. I'm running. I'm doing all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, my wife wants me to mention to you that I'm starting to snore a little bit more and I got to get checked out. Okay. That's not the interesting part. The interesting part is, he then he was like, all right, yeah, you're good, man. Your blood results will come back next week. And he's like, hey, I'm going to, before you leave, just pick up your referral at the front desk for, you got to go see an ENT, and all that. Okay. Here's the interesting part. So I got this referral and, I didn't do anything with it. I drove home that day. I went right back to work and like 2 days goes by and my wife was like, hey, have you scheduled with that referral? Lo and behold, my phone rings. Who is it? It's the practice that I was referred to. They had received the fax. The lady calls me and says, hey, are you Paul? Yeah. And she's like, yeah. When do you want to come in? And I'm like, oh, let me get my schedule or whatever. And she said, this is the most interesting part. She goes, yeah, I noticed here in the notes that while you're pulling your calendar up, I noticed in the notes here, it says your wife mentioned this, which is such a subtle statement. But all of a sudden it shows an attention to detail on her part. And mentally for me, it's like, oh shit, I really got to do this now. Cause that's right. Dana's going to get on me if I don't, and my point is like that little detail, whoever that front desk person is, that's the example of like the $100K front desk person.
She just made the company. She called, you weren't going to call Paul. You were going to,
I was probably going to forget about it.
She just generated revenue by helping you and your wife get a result that you need.
Well, she knew that because I had sent that, or because I had originally mentioned that, somehow that information made it down to her in the EMR. Correct. And she used that to make sure that I didn't delay this further. She subtly was like, your wife's not going to be happy if you don't do this. So, but I
don't know why healthcare doesn't get this. Yeah. I
think, man, I'm excited to hang with you at PPS too, because I think this idea, a lot of the ideas you talk about are really powerful, but the most powerful one that you still got me at this like holy shit moment is this idea of creating the 100K front desk, and it's this combination of training. I mean, maybe a longer term thing here is to figure out how to get front desk people to get trained by guys like you or by your team, so that they can go provide that value and go get more money somewhere else.
There's something else I'm going to is, let's face it, I've spent these last 6 months going, how do I get to the people doing the work? How do I get to the people that are by the way, back to your original question, my most successful clients have front desk managers, have practice managers who understand the value of all this and are willing to hold people accountable. If someone goes, or if I get on a call with someone and I'm like, okay, we're going to do this first call. I'm always like, do you have a practice manager? Do you have someone who oversees the front desk? And they're like, yeah. And I go, they absolutely have to be on this call because they're going to be the accountability person. They're going to be the real change maker. That's why, I mean, yeah, I got a huge ego, Paul. You know me. I got a huge ego.
No way. Never would have thought that.
When I get a text from someone that says, I got great news to share with you, and it's because of you, I'm like, even I pause and go, you did the fucking work, dude.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can give me credit for showing up and giving you this, but man, all I had to do is show up for an hour. I'm like, I said, right?
So let me ask, man, I'm fascinated by this idea. I'm sorry. I'm going to keep bringing it back to this idea because I actually think it's probably your biggest idea yet. Okay. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Let's pretend somebody's listening to this at a practice in Reno, Nevada, and this person is the front desk person. Like, let's just pretend they're not the practice owner. They are the front desk person in Reno, Nevada, or whatever, right? At a high level, what skills do you believe that person should grow within themselves to be worth $100K to their practice? Just give me the high level. Like if a front desk person was going to invest in themselves, like obviously their boss determines whether or not they're going to work with you, right? Like that's a boss's decision, right? But let's just pretend the front desk people are listening to this. They probably can't afford Jerry Durham right now. But at the same time, what does Jerry Durham believe the $100K front desk person should bring to the table in terms of skills to be worth $100K to the practice?
1 second. I've got a post here that I want to put out. So hold on. I want to read these.
This is good. I love it.
Yeah, dude. Hold on. Here it is. It's not difficult, right? And it's the same thing I've been saying. You have to have a willingness to own that you play a bigger role in patient success than probably anybody else around you believes. So that's number one. You have to own that you impact patient success in your business, right? And if you did, you wouldn't hang up on me and not get my phone number and say, I'll call you back at 5:00 if I don't hear from you, right? But the skills, basically, if you can own the fact that you're a good listener, that you can help people problem solve, that you're a problem solver, you're empathetic, which is different than sympathetic, right? Sympathy. And a lot of people, I get this, I care, and I hear sympathy on the phone. That's not empathy. So do some research on being I think this is a big one. Do some research on what does it mean to be empathetic, because it can be learned. You need to be genuine. And a lot of these start to overlap. You need to be knowledgeable. You need to be knowledgeable on not everybody comes to me. My front desk person needs to learn about all my treatments and services. I said, if you want to be a commodity, please do that. But they do not. They have to be knowledgeable of the person coming into the ecosystem. They have to be knowledgeable of the journey this person's going on. They have to understand the deliverables upon this journey from a value conversation. Then they need to be helpful. And the big one, I love the last one, responsible. Now we're into accountability and stuff like that. So those are the things you need to be thinking about. Let me just say the list again. They need to be a good listener, a problem solver, empathetic, genuine, knowledgeable, helpful, and responsible. And I bet you, here's the thing, Paul, and I'm never going to let the owners off the hook. The further I get into this, the more your front desk person probably checks 70, 80% of that. You beat it out of them. You push it down. You make them believe they're a taskmaster to be paid hourly. And I hate to say it, you call me complaining they want too much money. I'm like, you don't understand their fucking role, because you should be paying them 3 times more than you're paying them if you allowed them to do the work I've described.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Strata Stories. Strata PT is a single EMR platform and revenue cycle management service for physical, occupational, and speech therapy practices that helps you achieve a 99.99% reimbursement rate. If you'd like to learn more about Strata PT and see how our EMR and RCM works, head over to stratapt.com to book a demo.